The MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gam Podcast Network is brought to you by Fantasy. They brand new offer for new customers. Pledge of $5, get $100 bonus funds. Use promo code MLB SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the MLB Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gam Podcast Network. It is currently Thursday morning, early Thursday morning, around 12:30 a.m. Eastern here on October 9th. I'm Rose Scott Rochelle going solo for this pod. Time to break down the two NLDS games we have for Thursday. We thought we might end up getting potentially 0 games on the card for Thursday because we needed the Cubs or the Phillies to win to extend their respective series, and they both won. So instead of having 0 games and skipping a day on the show, we have 2 games. So definitely nice outcome there for content. I'll break down those games in a second. Before we get into the actual games there for Thursday, a brief reminder that you can also check out the podcast for SGPN in one easy location. Instead of checking out the MLB show, for example, on YouTube or Spotify, you can find all the podcasts on the network in one easy location. Go to the SGPN app in the App Store, free to download to get access to all your picks and podcasts from the network. Once again, one easy location, free to download on the App Store. So, starting off with the recap of what happened on Wednesday, we have a Game 5, which is nice. We could have more, but the Tigers were down early, 3-0 to Seattle. The bullpen fell apart, and the Tigers stormed back as they won 9-3. So we do have a Game 5 taking place on Friday, which is nice. Now, the Cubs, I said before, were able to extend their series against Milwaukee, scored a bunch of runs early against Priester, who was god-awful. And then after that, the Cubs offense did nothing again, but they did enough to hold on and survive. Bauer struck out, bases loaded, into the 8th inning, and the Cubs were able to hold on for a 1-run win. So not exactly a dominant game by the Cubs, but you know what? Survived and advance, and they advanced to Game 4, taking place on Thursday. So I'll see if they can survive once again. But a pretty entertaining game. Cubs scored 4 runs early. Priester was awful the entire outing, and he only went 2/3 of an inning. He actually did not even complete a full inning. First playoff appearance, 2/3 of an inning, 3 hits allowed, 4 earned, 2 walks. He was a mess. As for the Cubs, Tyone was fine. He was good early. Then he ended up battling, and eventually the Cubs bullpen was able to shut the door as they won in force Game 4. Then you ended up having the Phillies, who ended up beating the Dodgers. They won 8-2. Nice win for them. Yamamoto really didn't have it. Schwarber took him deep for about 450-plus feet. Then he homered again later on in the game. I'll get back into that game in a second because you have to talk about playoff Kershaw, who ended up pitching in relief, and he was awful. I'll get into that in a second. However, we had an elimination for the actual series because you ended up having the Yankees as the first team to get eliminated in the DS round, as the Yankees did lose to the Blue Jays 5-2, and they ended up losing the series 3-1. So for starters, the Yankees, we know, are a team that have a lot of expectations, win or bust every year, and they usually bust. They've won 1 title in about 25 years, and the Yankees were really not that close in the series if we're going from a grand perspective. The Yankees were able to win Game 3 in a game in which they trailed 6-1 early on in that game, came back and they won. Besides that game, Toronto outscored the Yankees by a total of 28-10. It was really one-way traffic for most of the series. The Yankees offense shut down in this game especially. The pitching staff was, I'd say, okay for the most part. It was not good early in the first 2 games in Toronto. Schlittler was fine today. I know Williams gave up the big hit there to kind of extend the lead for Toronto. Did it matter? Not really. I feel like the Yankees offense shut down entirely. I have some stats to back that up, by the way. So for the ALDS only, Trent Grisham, Anthony Volpe, Ben Rice, Jazz Chisholm, and Cody Bellinger combined to go 10 for 73. For reference, Vlad Jr. by himself in the entire round had 1 less hit than all of those guys I just mentioned. Vlad had 9 hits. He had 1 less hit by himself than Grisham, Volpe, Rice, Jazz, and Bellinger combined. The team no-showed the entire series. Judge was incredible, so you can't even blame him. Normally, Judge would have a bad postseason and he'd be the scapegoat. This year, Judge had a postseason batting average of 500 and a postseason on-base percentage of 581. He turned into Barry Bonds, and the Yankees still were not even close to winning the World Series. So the Yankees have a lot of issues with the roster, with Boone as the manager too, and they got outmanaged, outcoached, out-rostered, and they really got destroyed in most of these games. The 3 games that Toronto won, they won by at least 3 runs. It was really never close. In the one game they ended up losing, they led by 5 runs. It was pretty ugly. The Yankees were a mess, and you ended up seeing the Blue Jays shut the door. Nice job by them. Bullpen game, they used Lauer as well for part of that outing. But the Yankees had no answers, and the Blue Jays coasted. So nothing else to really add there. Yankees did threaten a bit, tying run to the plate there into the 8th inning. And, of course, first pitch swinging, Wells has a lazy fly ball to the outfield. So a couple of fielding mistakes. Jazz butchered the double play ball. Do I care? No. They scored 1 run. Then Judge had the RBI single in garbage time in the 9th inning. But Judge had an all-time great postseason and nothing. The Yankees won a total of 3 games in the playoffs. They were not even halfway to winning a World Series. If you factor it in that way, they were really not that close. Congrats to Toronto for making their first ALCS in about 10 years. And we'll see if they take on the Tigers or the Mariners in the ALCS in a couple of days. Anyway, getting back to the Dodgers and Phillies for a second, I have to mention playoff Kershaw because he came out of the bullpen and he was god-awful in the game. Now, I'm not saying they would have won the game anyway because they were down 3-1 when he checked in. It felt pretty weird for Dave Roberts to basically punt on the game by using Kershaw in a 2-run game in the 8th, or the 7th, which I thought was pretty weird. Came back out for the 8th, and it was a mess. Kershaw, 2 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks allowed. So Kershaw's overall numbers, I'm assuming that's the last time he's ever going to pitch. You can argue he might make the roster for the NLCS or the World Series. I honestly doubt that. I think he has nothing left in the tank. I think he is done. I think it's the last time we see him on the mound of a game, and we'll go from there. But either way, the point is Kershaw in his regular season career, assuming that is the last time we see him on a mound ever in his career, 2.53 ERA. One of the best regular season pitchers of all time. His career postseason ERA, 4.63. It's over 2 full runs higher in the postseason than it is in the regular season, which does fit the narrative of Kershaw being one of the biggest playoff chokers to ever exist. Now, I understand people will push back on it and say that he won 2 World Series titles, so he can't be put in that same criteria. I think that's nonsense. I think you're looking at a guy who won MVP, who won multiple Cy Youngs. He's viewed as the best pitcher of a generation, and his ERA is 4.6 and change in the postseason. He's an all-time playoff choker. It is what it is. And if this was the last time we ever saw him on the mound in general, it is a pretty fitting send-off for him to get destroyed in his final ever outing in the postseason. I wanted to mention Kershaw in passing. I know the bigger story is the Yankees, of course, who ended up losing, getting eliminated. But Kershaw, after that, I doubt we see him in this series, and I doubt he makes the roster for the NLCS or even the World Series. Injuries could happen, maybe in a mop-up duty, if they're up or down 8 runs, maybe Kershaw ends up pitching. That might be the end of it. So I wanted to mention that. It might be the end of a massive career for him. Of course, future first ballot Hall of Famer, no questions asked. But when your postseason ERA is 2 full runs higher than your regular season ERA, and they're viewed as being an all-time inner circle great pitcher, I gotta factor it into the overall resume. He's historically speaking an atrocious postseason pitcher who got shelled 1 last time on national television. That's all I have to say about that. We'll see if the Dodgers advance or not. The series is not over. Might be over for Kershaw. But either way, great career, awful postseason history. Whether or not he did end up winning 2 or maybe even 3 rings if the Dodgers win it all, Kershaw's numbers speak for themselves. He's an awful postseason pitcher. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for the recap of Wednesday. Time to move on into the games here for Thursday. A reminder for the schedule. These are the NLDS games only. The Game 5 between the Mariners and the Tigers is going to be on Friday. Yankee series, of course, ended against Toronto. Only one game on Friday. We have two games here on Thursday. Before we get into the actual breakdown of the two Game 4s in the NLDS series, reminder they're brought to you by our sponsor, MLB. Using bet on football, playoff baseball. You might have one WNBA game left as well because the Aces are up 3-0. Point is you can find a lot of different sports available, no matter how degen it is, on MyBookie. And they have a prop builder as well, which is a second to none. Model simple, bet anything, anywhere, anytime. Use crypto for deposits and payouts when you sign up for your new account. Use code SGPN for a special 100% bet back bonus $500 from your customers. MLB promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Novig, who's off to, once again, a really, I'd say, good start for the brand, giving you a lot of great prices, reduced juice. They have a lot of different options for you in different sports, so check it out. And Novig, I know I never really heard of until a couple months ago, and they've kind of exploded for good reason. You get great prices. They have a lot of markets for you. You can use it in states that might not have legalized sports betting. A lot of options. But check out Novig. It's the number one prediction market for sports in America. Get some great prices. For example, on Thursday Night Football, Eagles -7.5 to -103. Novig's available in 35 states, so check to see if it's available in your state. And we have a great promo deal with Novig. If you spend just $5, you'll get $50 in bonus funds. We use promo code SGPN. Once again, on the actual Novig, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast. Finished going through the recap of Wednesday. Time to move on into the games for Thursday. So, starting off with Game 1, you actually have a West Coast game as the early game. The Dodgers are the early game on the card, so this game will be taking place at around 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. local, so there will be a lot of sun for pretty much the entire game. Now, you have Sanchez going up against Glasnow for this one. Glasnow has appeared in the playoffs so far this postseason. He has not actually started a game. He came out of the bullpen in one of the games against, I believe it was, I don't remember if it was Tampa or if it was Philly Game 1, but either way, Glasnow has not started a game in the postseason, but he has appeared in a game. It was Game 1 against the Phillies. So, for this one, Dodgers are favored. They're -118. You have the Phillies at +100 for the run line. Dodgers -1.5 is going to be a decent plus money price here. A Dodgers -1.5 is available at around, FanDuel's doing the thing where they show the reverse run line for no reason. So the Dodgers -1.5 is +164. The Phillies +1.5 runs is going to be a bit juicier than that. It's going to be around -215. And for the over-under, I see 7.5. Now, Glasnow, said before, did pitch in Game 1 of the series out of the bullpen. He was good. A 1 2/3 innings pitch, ended up giving up no runs. Did give up 2 hits and 2 walks. The guys were on base. He got out of it, though. But either way, point is, he has not really pitched much recently. Even against Seattle in his last regular season start, he went 3 innings. So since September 20th, he's pitched a total of 4 2/3 innings. So he might be rusty. We'll see. He hasn't started a game in a while. So we'll see what happens. But started the game against Seattle, went 3 innings. So I'm not sure how long he's going to go. But either way, he has the nod here for Game 4. Now, Philly was able to fight off elimination on Wednesday, trying to hang in there for Thursday. And for this one, we saw Sanchez pitching Game 1. He was fine, good early, then it kind of unraveled late. 5 2/3, 4 hits, 2 earned runs. We know he's still a good pitcher, and the fact is he is the better pitcher in this matchup compared to Glasnow. Now, Sanchez ended up pitching on Saturday, so you're looking at him being on 1 day less rest than normal, but he went 5 2/3, so he still went some distance, not a ton. Did throw 94 pitches, so usual, I'd say, number for Sanchez. Now, for this one, I do want to point out the Phillies did show signs of life offensively. We saw a pretty weird piggybacking situation with Nola going 2 innings followed by Suarez, and Edman took Suarez yard in the first pitch he threw. So you figured, okay, Philly might roll over again. Dodgers might sweep, and we might see the Phillies season end in a couple hours. Not so much. The Phillies ended up dominating. Yamamoto, we saw Schwarber hit 2 home runs. Once Kershaw came in, he destroyed the entire game, and the Phillies coasted to a nice, easy win. But the point is, the Phillies offense woke up, and we know this team can be dangerous, Schwarber especially, with 2 homers. I do think you're looking at a spot where the Phillies, with Sanchez pitching, I think are quite live to win this game, actually. I think you're looking at Sanchez, who can go pretty well. Glasnow might not go long. We'll see. And against the Phillies in that outing he had out of the bullpen, he wasn't insanely sharp. Once again, 4 base runners in an inning and 2/3. So I don't mind the Phillies, actually, going for plus money. I don't mind the over in the game, as Trevor's pointing out. He's mentioning that the bullpens could be a bit tricky. You don't know the length of either pitcher. They need Sanchez to go distance, though, because they ended up burning both Nola and Suarez in the game on Wednesday. So I actually don't mind the Phillies here. I think Sanchez is the better pitcher than Glasnow. I think he's going to finish 3rd in the Cy Young. But I think you're looking at a spot where Sanchez, maybe 2nd on the Cy Young, actually, but he's going to finish a finalist. I think the Phillies are live here. It might be a plus money play. Maybe a part of me just wants to laugh at Dave Roberts going to a Game 5 again, which would be pretty funny. But I do think that Suarez ended up doing enough length to save most of the bullpen for Philly. I think that Sanchez has a pretty decent leash. I see plus 105 for the Phillies. I do not mind that. I'll take that in this one. Too many questions about Glasnow. I think the Phillies keep the offense going. I like the over, though, at 7.5 as my favorite play. I see runs in this one. I'll go for that, but I think that plus money for Sanchez, the better pitcher, is appealing. I'll go for the Phillies money line with the over 7.5 in this game. Moving on to the next game. On the card, the Brewers taking on the Cubs. Now, the Cubs were able to survive. They didn't look good, but you know what? A win's a win. So I said before, Priester was awful, and the Cubs scored 4 runs in the first inning, never scored again. They were able to hold. They didn't dominate. They held, and Milwaukee had a couple of chances. They ended up having a strikeout by Bowers with the bases loaded. You ended up having Terang with a really brutal strikeout with a guy on second, no outs, with Churio, who had the double. Just an awful at-bat by Terang. But the point is the Brewers had options. They had chances. The Cubs really didn't. And the Brewers used Quintana. They used a couple of other relievers in there, and the Cubs couldn't score. So it feels like the same story every game for the Cubs. They either score early or not at all. Now, for this game, the pitching matchup is kind of in flux. I'm assuming Peralta is going to go for Milwaukee. As for the Cubs, I know it's going to be Boyd. Now, Boyd was really bad in Game 1. We'll see how he looks in Game 4. But I'm assuming Peralta is going to go for Milwaukee in this one. Either way, though, do I really care who's pitching for Milwaukee? Not really. I think Milwaukee's better. I think that the Phillies woke up offensively compared to what the Cubs did in their last game. The Phillies looked like a team that actually was going to wake up and potentially take control, and they looked like a team that was willing to kind of outslug the opposition. The Cubs really can't do that. They scored 4 runs because you saw PCA have a massive 2-run single. They had a wild pitch with Mears, so the Brewers gifted a run to the Cubs. They didn't score for the final 8 innings. So the Cubs, I still don't think looked that good. They were able to win 1 game. The Phillies, on the other hand, looked like an actual offense that was kind of waking up from a slumber. The Cubs looked the same. It's been the same story every game. They score early, they do nothing the rest of the game, and then they end up potentially losing. I think Milwaukee closes it out here. I think they are the better team. I think the Cubs are still not that great. The bullpen was dicey at times. It got through. Do I trust them using all those relievers again? No, I don't. I think the Brewers had a lot of chances. They fumbled them, but I do think the Brewers proved they can get to this bullpen. The Cubs, though, have not gone to Milwaukee's bullpen at all, and they still didn't get to the bullpen, even in the game they won. So I'll go with Milwaukee here. I think the price is a bit cheap here without the actual listed pitchers. Milwaukee's around minus 120. Cubs are around plus 102. Run line, Cubs minus 1.5 is plus 140. Cubs plus 1.5 is minus 170. The over-under is at 7.5. For me, I'll go with Milwaukee. I think they're still the better team. Not going to overreact to 1 game. The Phillies showed some signs of potentially waking up. The Cubs still look like the same team. They just did enough by the bare minimum to avoid choking a 4-1 lead. I'll take the Brewers to end this series. I agree with Trevor. Think the series is going to end, personally. That's going to wrap it up for the 2 games on the card. Thinking of other stuff worth talking about, of course, we have the lock and dog. We end up having the, of course, home run play. I'll give out in a second. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth talking about. I already mentioned playoff Kershaw. I mentioned the Yankees. I think Boone will be back next year. Cashman, I hope, gets fired, but I don't see Hal Steinbrenner doing anything because he's spineless. And the Yankees have a lot of decisions to make. That's really all there is to talk about. Toronto, though, good for them. And they have a pretty decent rest, as, of course, there's a Game 5 going on with Seattle and Detroit on Friday. Of course, we'll save that for a separate episode. But either way, that is going to wrap it up for the 2-game breakdowns for a Thursday. Before we get into the Lock and Dog reminder, brought to you by our sponsor for the show, Underdog Fantasy. You can use their Underdog Pick'em entries for a chance to win 500 times your entry, pick higher or lower on your favorite player stats for a chance to win a bunch of money. And a reminder, we have a new offer deal with Underdog. So you can get a great deal, spend just $5, get $100 bonus funds. We use promo code MLB SGPN at sign up. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They're off to a great start in college football and NFL for picks and props. They won 8-2 on passing prop overs in week 5. Rhythm's also giving away weekly cash prizes just for tracking your bets in the app. Track 5 bets with the same type of all that you build, and you can win $1K. And a reminder, we have a nice promo deal with Rhythm. If you use the promo code SGPN25 when you download the Rhythm app, you'll get a quarter off first month. Download Rhythm. Once again, promo code SGPN25 for a quarter off your first month, SGPN25. Welcome back, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast. Finished going through the 2 games for the NLDS Game 4s for Thursday. Time to move on into the Lock and Dog picks. For the lock, I'm going to go with Milwaukee to get the job done here. Once again, maybe eye test can be biased, but the Cubs really did not look that impressive in Game 3. A win's a win. Milwaukee was definitely trying to climb back. They almost did. Boyd got killed in Game 1. He's been pretty underwhelming for the last month or two after he was one of the Cy Young frontrunners for the first couple months. He's been kind of a mess lately, and Milwaukee got to him early. He didn't complete an inning in the first start. So I'll go for Milwaukee here. I think whether it's Peralta or not, I still like their pitching staff more than Chicago's. I do think Milwaukee's offense is better, and I think that if the Cubs end up not exploding early in the game, they have not scored any runs late the entire series, which is not a good sign. Give Milwaukee to get the job done here to end the series, and you can find that best price available at around -150. I see -110, actually, on Bet365. I'll take that as my lock. For the dog, you know what? I will pick another Game 5. Give me Philly to get the job done here at +105. The offense woke up a bit. Schwarber had 2 home runs. Bohm even had a big hit. The thing is, Glasnow has not really started a true start for a couple of weeks. He pitched 3 innings in his last start against Seattle. That doesn't really mean anything. He went an inning and 2/3 against the Phillies earlier in the series, was not very effective. I think it's a good spot for the Phillies, actually. And I do think the Dodgers bullpen, like the Phillies, can be extremely unpredictable. And I do think you might see a bit of a coin flip for this actual game. But plus money, I think is interesting. I think Sanchez is better than Glasnow, and I'm getting plus money. I'll take a shot here. I'll go with the Phillies to get the job done here at +105 as my dog. So once again, the Lock and Dog picks for Thursday. Lock's going to be on the Brewers money line at -115, or -110, on Bet365. For the dog, I'm going to go with the Phillies money line at +105. It's available on Caesars. So for the home run pick for the episode, what do I want to do for the home runs? Because Glasnow, looking at his last couple of outings, he has not allowed a home run since August, so I can't really go Glasnow. I don't want to do Sanchez either. I think it has to be Boyd. And Boyd has been, once again, pretty ugly watching him pitch recently. To read off the numbers here, he went 4 1/3. He gave up 1 run against the Padres. They had a bunch of guys on base in that one. He has allowed at least 1 home run in 4 of his last 6 starts. So I do think it's a decent spot for a Milwaukee guy to go yard. I ended up cashing on him earlier in the series at a +450 price, give or take. I'm going to take him again. I'm going to go with William Contreras to get the job done. I'll take him to hit a home run against Boyd. He's 5 for 10 lifetime with a home run. I like the spot here for Contreras. Boyd has been a mess. Even if Boyd doesn't end up starting, I still like the matchup for Contreras. And to mention the odds here for his home run, you can find Contreras homer at +680 on FanDuel. 680 is outrageous. Give me Contreras home run at +680 as my home run play. It's going to wrap it up, though, for the show. Once again, for Game 5 between the Tigers and the Mariners. But we're going to do a special treat for that one. Since it is one game, we'll be doing a 3-person episode with Lante, Dylan, and I. So a 3-person episode next time around. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.